I think the problems in New York City, they're just the beginning of many other problems that a lot of cities that open themselves up to immigration are going to be facing. How do you deal with such a desperate situation when we have hyperinflation, we have the price of goods going up so dramatically at the grocery store, the price of rent going up so dramatically? How do you deal with this kind of situation? Jen, I know you might have different perspectives here and different ideas, but what do you think of this entire mess since, a lot of people have been kind of calling it out? It's here. What do we do about it?
If you're talking about what to do right now in New York, I actually have no idea what they're supposed to do with this mess. And I do understand the concept of wanting to close borders. And I understand why people feel like that's the answer. But I think that the problem lies more with corporations that hire people that are not legal and don't suffer any sort of repercussions or penalties. So we actually want people in this country to work for wages that people in this country don't want to work for. So we want people in here to do that, and then we don't want them here. And then there's the people that are dangerous that come in, but those are not the people coming through the border. The people that are really dangerous actually are not crossing over through the border. They're coming in legally. And that's, to me, the problem that we need to be focused on. And again, these are just human beings. So in my mind, I feel like I'd want to, welcome people in, offer them a shower and a meal, and maybe give them a place to stay. So for me, I do think of this very differently, but...
Where's the claim come from that the violent migrants come in legally?
Oh, so it's not necessarily violent migrants. It's just people that are on the watch list, people that are coming in that are dangerous people. I actually have a friend whose boyfriend does that, works counterterrorism for the FBI. And one of the most frustrating things that he's dealing with is the constant harping on the border as if that's where the majority of their problems come from. And it isn't. So when you're talking about the people that are really watching people that are coming in that are dangerous, they come in legally. They just overstay. The very dangerous people aren't coming across the border. The people coming across the border are like families and mothers and children and people that are desperate and willing to walk on razor wire to get in here. And meanwhile, people from a lot of the gangs and the dangerous people who do want to come in here and do us harm get in here perfectly legally.
Do they fly in and overstay visas?
Always. There's flying in, there's driving in, there's all sorts of ways of coming in, but these are not the people that are swimming with all their belongings in their backs across the river trying to get to dry land. Those are not the people that wish us harm. And there are people that wish us harm.
It's clear to me that you're the bleeding heart type,
I am.
And I love and respect that. However, there is a limit at which immigration does become problematic, just based off of landmass, geography. Is there any point at which you would say, okay, this is too much?
I don't know, because I've never seen an actual fair, legitimate, just immigration system in my entire life. I grew up here in South Florida, and we have this thing called wet foot, dry foot. And when I was a kid, and I noticed that it's interesting. So when the Cubans come here, they get benefits, they get housing, they get all sorts of stuff. But when the Haitians come here, we stick them in deportation centers and then send them home. So even as a kid, I recognized, okay, so coming to this country is more like an airline ticket instead of a bus ticket. We don't all pay the same price. And I don't like that. I think whatever the path to citizenship is needs to be the path to citizenship for everybody. I think that if somebody comes here and has a record or is dangerous, then no, we don't need people coming in here and becoming citizens that are dangerous people. But I think if we get to a point where you're treating all the people equally that are coming here, I think there needs to be two forms of immigration. I think you have people that just want to come here because they want to, and people that are desperately seeking asylum. And regardless of what country you're from, whichever one of those categories you fit in needs to have whatever that process is. And whatever that process needs to keep in mind that these are human beings. Well, so that's all I'm saying.
My issue with the asylum process is if you have these two categorizations, then you have to have a hearing for everyone who claims asylum. And if that's the case, well, then you have 3 to 4 to 5 million asylum claims every year because everyone's just going to claim it regardless.
No, that's not true. Not everybody claims asylum. There's a lot of people that come and immigrate here. People that come from Canada aren't claiming asylum. There's a lot of people.
Well, the people that come across the border illegally, they tend to say that.
Okay, but now we also have to go and look at why are all those people coming here illegally in droves? What is causing that?
Well, there's lots of reasons: the war on drugs, the CIA interference in their government, the top
Okay.
women
Well,
with their
there's
leadership.
also a lot of NGOs and non-government groups and organizations saying, hey, come here. There's a bunch of free money as well.
True.
So I've done a lot of reporting on the border, and a lot of these people are lied to. A lot of them are told a bill of goods that are not true at all. A lot of multinational corporations rely on immigration to, of course, lower the cost of labor.
Exactly.
They increase the cost of housing. And if you look at a lot of this, it's people from Turkey, it's people from Africa. Why are they coming and flying all the way into Latin America and then just being told to come on in? And then they have court tickets that are, 10 years, sometimes even 15 years down the line? That absolutely makes no sense at all. And it's creating a situation where a lot of the poorest people are now not going to get all the benefits that they used to get. And that is creating a lot of problem, a lot of racial tensions. We always had a lot of racial tensions within the United States, especially when new immigrants groups are kind of introduced. We had that with the Irish. We had that with the Polish. We had that with, but I think now we're dealing with a really different situation, because now we're dealing with a hyper kind of globalization immigration policy that truly, I think, has been weaponized against the middle class, against the poor people in this country. And now we're spending, according to some estimates here, according to even Fox Business, that they're reporting that there's $451 billion that is going to be spent on housing and care for these illegal immigrants that were told to come here. That to me is just crazy.
I mean, that's more money than we've sent to Israel. That's more money than we gave to Ukraine for their entire war against Russia, and everyone's been upset about that quantity of money. And this is going towards this immigrant class that is ultimately now running afoul of some of the Democrats' strongholds. I think that's the most fascinating dynamic, is that the Democrats, the party broadly, has been endorsing these types of policies, and now they have many of their voters that are saying this is breaking our way of life.
Yeah. Here's the Fox Business report, just so people could understand the severity of this and how severe it is.
Committee on Homeland Security majority, they say the price tag per year is $451 billion. That is both for the housing and care of the asylum seekers as well as those known gotaways.
That's crazy right there. That's a lot of money that, of course, we clearly don't have. We clearly keep printing money out of nowhere. We clearly also keep borrowing money out of nowhere. We clearly also keep taxing people to the point where it's becoming difficult for the average person to survive, as the middle class is just being absolutely eviscerated. And Bernie Sanders used to talk about this. He no longer talks about this. He also talked about the Koch brothers plan. He no longer talks about the Koch brothers plan, as of course there was a shift in the narrative here. But if we really did care about people, we wouldn't be selling them a bill of goods. There's also a lot of brain drain that's being created with this immigration that's kind of screwing over the countries, that is having a lot of its kind of hardest working individuals and most kind of individuals who are willing to take more risks and work, leave the country. So Latin America is getting screwed over by this. Who's really winning? The multinational corporations that are using these people as slave labor, and the Democrats that are essentially ensuring their future Democratic voting base.
Yeah. Well, let me add, as a California refugee and an entrepreneur that was producing hundreds of thousands in tax revenue for the state, I fled in part because, well, the lockdowns was the primary reason, but there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are now leaving California, leaving New York. And when you have the job creator class that leaves these states because of just a series of you can call them mismanagements if you want to be nice. I would say it's the intentional collapse of these states. But regardless, what that means is that you then have, less skilled labor in the migrant class that comes in. You have the people that are actually the job creators flee because of the tax burden that is now put on the entrepreneurial class. They don't want to have to pay for all this. And if anybody is watching that's from California, you already know what the tax burden is like in California. It's absolutely backbreaking. You add on to that the inflation that has come from Federal Reserve policy, including our Treasury, which spends into oblivion, the interest rate manipulation that was held at the zero bound for over 10 years, which is just pure suicide, economically and financially. It's just a series of events that, when you add them all up, it creates a very bad dynamic. And I think that these states that are endorsing these policies are going to pay a huge price.
I think the money should come from the corporations that are the reason that we're having this problem, because that's the reality. This is about capital. It's always about capital. So the corporations end up getting benefits instead of getting the sticks, and they get carrots. you know? And so then they just get to keep doing it. And then meanwhile, these poor people that are told whatever they're told and come over from wherever they come over, for the most part, are desperate people seeking a better life, right? From wherever they're from. Like, these are not people that are in a good way. And so for me, I feel like, yeah, we need to treat people with kindness.
I think we also need to discern what kind of corporations, because a lot of people have corporations. I have a corporation,
Right.
And
Right.
I think, you know, I think people are kind of triggered by that, because they say, hey, if you tax the corporations, all of us, essentially, this is what people's interpretation are, and I'll let you kind of clear the record. They're like, the cost is going to go down to the consumer, and prices are going to go up if we just go after all the corporations. There are other corporations like BlackRock, State Street, Bayer, former Monsanto, that do take advantage of the financial system, that do screw us over, but they're usually the biggest kind of beneficiaries of government programs. So how would you answer those kind of criticisms?
Well, no, that's true. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, technically, my little thing is a corporation too, and I'm certainly not the problem. No, we're talking about corporations that basically have paid for our government. They own everybody. They own Congress. They own all three branches of government, and they own the fourth estate, right? Those are the people that are reaping the benefits from the illegal immigration. It is certainly not corporations like you. I know that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so, no, but I think people need to understand that. I mean, look, we're looking at something where those three corporations, you're talking BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, they're going to own 60% of single family homes. They say, I think it was like within the next 10 years. And those are the kinds of corporations that we should all be concerned about. They're the ones that are manipulating and getting like things like subsidies and benefits and socialism from the government, and yet they don't have to pay.
Yeah. I would say that they got so much support that they can't even be considered private. I think they're quasi-public institutions that have essentially have hijacked our government and are using it for their own personal kind of benefit.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.